There are no My Preferences in the accounting area, so let's click on the Company or Global Preference tab. The first section relates to account preferences. The Use Account Numbers relates to the chart of accounts, and when this preference is selected, you can use account number identification when setting up your accounts. If this preference isn't selected, then your accounts will only be identified by the description you choose. Show Lowest Subaccount controls how QuickBooks displays subaccounts when you choose a subaccount in the account field of a transaction. This preference is available only if you select Use Account Numbers. When this preference is on, QuickBooks displays only the lowest subaccount. When it is off, the parent and subaccounts are shown in a string that can get rather lengthy if there are multi-layers of parent and subaccounts. The Require Accounts preference prevents you from recording a transaction unless you have assigned it to an account. When this preference is off, QuickBooks allows you to record transactions that have no assigned accounts. QuickBooks automatically assigns these transactions to uncategorized income or uncategorized expense. By default, this preference is turned on, and we recommend that you leave it this way. The Class Tracking preference lets you categorize transactions by assigning them to the classes on your class list, which we discuss in more detail when we review various revenue and expenditure transactions in later lessons and sessions. In general, using classes in QuickBooks gives you a way to classify your transactions by categories of your choosing. You can use classes to classify your income and expenses by department, business office, or location, separate properties you own, or any other meaningful breakdown of the business you do. For example, a general contractor might classify all income and expenses by creating two classes, residential or commercial. Another example could be an accountant creating a class for each way they make money, such as audit, tax, and consulting. As a result, the contractor could create separate reports for the residential and commercial parts of the business. Likewise, the accountant could create separate reports for each aspect of their business. Note, once this preference is activated, QuickBooks includes a class field on all transaction forms, so now the choice is available. If the preference is turned off, you will not have the choice. The Prompt to Assign Classes preference, when turned on, will automate a reminder pop-up window to appear if you do not assign a class to a transaction. This preference can only be activated if the Use Class Tracking for Transaction preference is chosen. The Automatically Assigned General Journal Entry Number preference automatically assigns a number to a general journal entry. The number assigned is the number of the previous entry plus 1. No number is assigned, however, if the number of the previous entry is blank. When this preference is off, you need to enter the number manually. The Warn When Posting to Retained Earnings Account preference displays a warning if you are about to post to the Retained Earnings account. In most cases, you should avoid posting directly to this account because it is automatically generated by QuickBooks in terms of what gets posted to it. The Date Warnings preference specify whether users should be notified via pop-up window if transactions are the specified number of days before or after the current date. You can choose the number of days for both these warnings. The Closing Date preference allows you to set a closing date by clicking on the Set Date Password button, which will put you in the Set Closing Date and Password window, allowing you to put in a closing date and then putting in a password, so if anyone tries to make a change on or before the closing date you put in, then a warning window will come up prompting them for the password, which if they don't have, will prevent them from making any changes. Therefore, only the person with the password will be able to make any changes on or before the closing date. The Exclude Estimates, Sales Orders, and Purchase Orders from Closing Date Restrictions is a feature allowing activities that have already been created and in effect approved to be consummated without requiring a password. Once a closing date and password have been selected, then just click the OK button and then again to lock in all the changes made in this area.